So it starts with this view of the Earth from the clouds, and this voice is like, don't panic. Then, boom, we're looking at a train cutting through this snowy field, and on the train is our main character, this little girl named Lazel. It's Nazi Germany, World War II, so you know things are going to be intense. And right away, it gets super sad. Her little brother dies on the train. They have to stop and bury him in the snow. So then it's 1938, and Liesel is being sent to live with new foster parents. The mom's name is Rosa, and the dad is Hans. When she gets to their house, Hans is playing this cool accordion and is super sweet to her. Rosa is a little rough around the edges. She's like, okay, from now on, you call me Mama and you call him Papa. A little later, this kid named Rudy knocks on the door. You can tell right away he's going to be her best friend. So Liesel and Rudy go to school together, but when they get to class, it's a total disaster. The teacher calls Liesel up and asks her to write her name on the board. But get this, Liesel can't read or write at all, so she just draws 3 big X's on the blackboard. All the kids start laughing at her, but the teacher just tells her to sit down. So embarrassing. That night, her new dad, Hans, comes to say goodnight and sees she has a book. He's like, is that yours? And she says it belonged to her brother. He asks what it says, and she's like, I don't know, because she can't read. So Hans, even though he says he's not a great reader either, is like, okay, let's start right now. And they start reading it together. It's so sweet. The next thing you know, Liesel is in her little Hitler Youth uniform, singing all these German songs, but then we see the Nazis going crazy in the streets, smashing the windows of Jewish shops. It's really messed up. Pages from books are scattered everywhere. Then we cut to a different house. A guy knocks on the door, and we meet this new character, Max. He's Jewish, and he's on the run from the soldiers. Back at Liesel's house, Hans is still teaching her to read. Then he's like, come with me, I have a surprise for you. And he takes her down to the basement. And get this, he's painted the walls with letters and words like a giant personal dictionary. He gives her some chalk and tells her she can write all over the walls. Liesel is so happy. She just loves reading and writing. Then someone comes and gets Hans, and he's like, hurry, Liesel, or we'll miss the parade. But it's not really a parade. It's nighttime, and the whole town is gathered in the square. This Nazi officer is up on a stage giving this big, intense speech. He's like, we have to clean ourselves of all the bad ideas. We have to get rid of the intellectual dirt. He's talking about books and art and movies being bad for the nation. And that's why they're all there, to have a giant book burning.
This huge pile of books right in the middle of the town square. It's a total bonfire. And the Nazi officer is still yelling. He's like, we have to root out this sickness that's been infecting Germany. And when the war comes, we'll stand for our future until we get the final victory. Liesel is just standing there, taking it all in. Everyone is shouting and doing the salute. The officer's like, we will get rid of all the communists and the Jews. And then he just screams, Hail Hitler! After a while, everyone leaves. But Liesel stays behind. She goes right up to the smoldering pile of books and sees one that's not totally burned. So she grabs it and shoves it under her coat. Hans comes looking for her and is like, hey, I told you to meet me at the church. Liesel says she's sorry, but then she starts coughing from the smoke coming off the book in her coat. Hans totally knows she has it, but he's cool about it. He just whispers, this will be our secret. We'll read it in the basement, just like the other one. Liesel is so relieved. But then she asks, was my real mama a communist? Was it Hitler who took her away? And then she just says it right out loud, I hate Hitler. And Hans gets super serious. He's like, whoa, whoa, you can never, ever say that in front of anyone else. Promise me. So they get home, and they see the book she saved is The Invisible Man. And then suddenly, there's a knock at the door. And guess who it is? It's Max, the Jewish guy who was on the run. He looks totally terrified and asks for help. Hans and Rosa tell him to go upstairs quick. Then Hans explains the whole thing to Liesel. He's like, Max's father saved my life in the war. He died for me. I owe his family big time. And then he makes Liesel promise, like a super serious promise. You can't tell anyone he's here. Not your friends, not Rudy, not a single soul. Liesel promises. The next day, she's back at school, playing with Rudy like nothing happened. But that night, she sees Max asleep in the basement holding a book. She tries to sneak a look, but he wakes up and catches her. He just calls her a curious girl. She asks what the book's about, and he says, it's about your Führer, Hitler. So Liesel starts asking all these questions like, are you hiding from Hitler? Are you a communist? And Max just looks at her and says, no, I'm a Jew. So sometime later, Rosa gives Liesel some laundry to deliver. It takes her to this huge fancy house. And this lady, Ilse, lets her in. And get this, Ilse takes her into this amazing library. It's huge, with books from the floor to the ceiling. Ilse can tell Liesel loves to read. Liesel is in heaven just touching all the books. She picks one up, but then she remembers Rudy is waiting outside for her. But as she's leaving, Ilse's like, you can come back and read here whenever you want. So cool! So now Max is living full-time in their basement because they're so afraid of the soldiers raiding the house. Liesel spends a ton of time down there with him. She reads to him, and every time she learns a new word she thinks is difficult, she writes it on the basement wall. Max asks her where she gets all these amazing words, and at first she says it's a secret, but then she spills the beans about the library. And then Max gives Liesel this incredible gift, a book. He tells her that he learned from his religion that every living thing, every bird, every leaf is only alive because it has the secret words of life
Max
inside
tells her
it.
this really deep
It's
thing.
so
He's like,
beautiful.
words are what make us human. They're what give us life. It's so cool. But then things get bad. The winter gets super cold, and since Max is stuck in the freezing basement, he gets really, really sick. Liesel's terrified he's going to die, just like her brother. She sits with him all the time and just reads to him, like from The Invisible Man. And the book is all about this stranger showing up in the winter, and no one knows who he is. It's so perfect. So get this. The laundry lady's husband is a total jerk and tells Rosa they can't bring their laundry anymore. So Liesel, being a total rebel, starts sneaking into their house through the library window to borrow books. Rudy totally knows she's doing it and calls her a book thief, but she's like, nope, I'm just borrowing. And then she finally tells Rudy her biggest secret. She tells him about Max. Things get super scary after that. The Nazis start doing house-to-house searches in their neighborhood. One night the sirens go off and everyone has to run to a bomb shelter. They have to leave Max all alone in the basement, and it's so tense. But while they're gone, Max can't resist and he sneaks outside just to look at the stars for a minute. He's just standing there, so happy. And then bam, a soldier truck comes around the corner. He barely hides in time. After that close call, he knows he has to go. He's like, I'm putting you all in danger. So he leaves in the middle of the night. Liesel is completely heartbroken. Rosa and Hans are so sad too. And the bad news just keeps coming. They find out Rudy has been chosen for some special elite Nazi training camp. And then Hans gets a letter. He's been drafted into the army. He has to go too. Liesel is like, everyone is leaving me. Before Hans goes, he tells her to take care of Rosa because she acts tough, but she's not. A long time goes by. Then one day, a truck pulls up and Hans gets out. He's back! Liesel is so happy. She just runs to him screaming, Papa! They're sitting and talking and she's like, I wonder where Max is. And Hans says he wonders the same thing. But then the war comes right to their street. One night the bombs fall. Everything is just gone. The whole street is destroyed, just piles of rubble. Dead bodies are everywhere. And the soldiers are digging through the wreckage and they find one person alive. It's Liesel. She was in the basement reading, and it saved her life. But when she comes out, she sees it. Everyone is gone. Hans, Rosa, even Rudy. They're all dead. It's the worst thing ever. She just completely collapses. When she comes to, she's just in shock, and she finds one of her books in the rubble. And then the library lady, Ilse, shows up in her car and just runs and holds her. So 2 years later, the war is over, and Liesel is working in Rudy's dad's old tailor shop. And one day she looks up at the door, and it's Max. He survived. He's standing right there, and they just run to each other and hug. It's amazing. Then the story goes back to the very beginning with the clouds and that narrator's voice, and we find out the narrator is Death. And Death is like, I've seen it all, the best and the worst, but nobody lives forever. And then Death says that he finally came for Liesel many, many years later, but he was actually happy about it because she lived this long, amazing life until she was 90 years old. She had kids and grandkids, and in her last moments, she was thinking about all the people she loved, Hans, Rosa, and Rudy. And Death says when he took her, there were no more words, just peace. And that's the end. So good, right?